Hey guys, welcome to my office. Welcome back to my dollhouse. And this is going to be All My Dolls Part 2. I need my list. And on December 7th, I ordered Kit Kittredge from Mercari. I got her for I think $27. She was a story. So there's a very prolific seller on Mercari. They have listings all the time. I have no idea how they have so much stuff, but they do. Great. However, this was my first time ordering from them. I will never order from them again. The experience with the seller was fine. However, when I received my kit, I no joke had an allergic reaction for 2 days. I have no idea what was on her. I have no idea how she had been stored or what, but no matter what that person has had, I've never purchased from them again. She was an absolute ordeal to try and clean up. And yeah, so that's Kit. That being said, I still have my Kit. I love her. Her wig is terrible. It's absolutely awful. It's like stick straight. It was so filthy when I got her. Like she was not marked as being like TLC. It was the first time that I was restoring a doll, and I thought, you know, $27, it's a doll that I want. She's always reminded me of my grandmother. My grandmother grew up during the Depression, and she had a very large hand in raising me, so I always feel very affected by, you know, essentially her circumstances growing up. Again, fiscally responsible child, fiscally responsible adult. So all of that was, you know, I think trickled down from the fact that I was raised in large part by someone who went through the Great Depression in the 1930s. I never wanted to buy a new Kit doll because, again, she reminded me so much of my grandmother. And my grandma always taught me to thrift, to, you know, look for deals, to, you know, give things a second life, that you repair things rather than throwing them away. So I thought, in the spirit of my grandmother, I should get a kit that was a good deal and I could restore. So I got one who was, you know, bargain basement deal. However, oh my gosh, Kit is the one doll that I still have to clean up after the mildew incident that took place in my dollhouse. It depends on whether or not you're coming from my Instagram or not, but basically, originally when we moved into our house last year, my husband and I both worked from home, and his office is on our second floor, and I wanted the basement office. I liked the idea of having, you know, a space that was completely separated from the house. We moved to New England in September of last year. By March, I was fully set up in my office. I got a new desk, I got the dollhouse, filled everything up, everything was great. I was basically working on installing the walls for the dollhouse, and I went to remove the furniture from one of the rooms so that I could put in the wall, and the furniture was covered in mildew. So I very quickly pulled everything out of the dollhouse, threw it in a bin in my office so that I could sanitize things piece by piece, you know, throw washable items into the washer, etc. But it turned out that one of the windows in my basement office isn't sealed properly. So all this moisture was getting into my office, and the mildew went all the way across the dollhouse. So unfortunately, I had to throw away a lot of my props. I had to throw away some of my doll furniture, some of which I had made back in California. So that was a real bummer. And that is why my office is now upstairs, across from my husband's office. So all that to say, Kit was not in part 1. She should have been. However, she is the one and only doll I still have to clean up after that whole mildew incident. So I'll try and post a picture of her right about here. And yeah, I love her very much. She's adorable, and she's a great fun doll. She's the crazy one. So she's kind of the super duper tomboy, I can do anything essence that was me as a child and a teenager and an adult. So yeah, but yeah, I love my kit very, very much. All right, so now let's really get into part two. My first doll that I acquired in 2023 was a birthday gift from my husband. He was very excited to get to take me to the American Girl store and, you know, have me pick out a doll in person for the very first time. So my first doll of 2023 is Nikki Hoffman. In my collection, she's Becca. So I think it's cute that to pay a nod to like the 90s and 2000s and whatnot, they used names that were popular at that time, but also kind of recycled older AG names. However, I didn't want to deal with all the confusion, so I went ahead and renamed her Becca after one of my AGIG friends. I am excessively doll-verted. Rebecca is a fantastic historian and writes beautiful pieces and is a huge advocate. And so, yeah, she and I were in talks a lot at and around the time that I got Becca. So I decided that I wanted to pay honor to my friend who is doing such good work and name her Becca. So it's with 2 Ks. But yeah, I love her. I love the 90s girl collection. Again, I am a child of the 80s and 90s, and you know, their collection rings very true to, you know, what I had as a kid. It was definitely a Nikki Hoffman. I was a Becca. I started skateboarding when I was 5 years old, and that was how I got to and from church when I was, I guess in junior high. Yeah, I would skateboard about 3 miles to, you know, get to church on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I never really learned much in the way of tricks. I would skateboard with my brother, my older brother, and his friends, and he was always afraid of what if I hit my head because of my epilepsy. Anyone should be afraid of hitting their head. I'm sorry, it's not just an epilepsy thing. But he was an older brother, he was concerned. So I never learned much in the way of tricks or anything like that. But I used it more as like, this is how I commute. I was a skater. I was into like MXPX, who's a punk band. I really liked Rage Against the Machine. But the music that I tended towards on my own, like with no influence from my family, was Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, and those are the singers that I was always emulating back when I was in music. So yeah, anyway, so this is Becca, and she's wonderful, and I have her in Grace's pajamas right now because I just think that the set looks so cute on so many dolls, and Becca is one of those. So yeah, she's fantastic. All right, so doll number 2, as you might have guessed, is Isabel Hoffman. Sorry, I have to think really hard about like what was her original name. Who in my collection is Sarah. I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, like huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. And so I thought that naming her Sarah would be after Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy in the television series, would be a nice little nod. And yeah, with both dolls, I also wanted to retain Jewish names. So Rebecca is a Jewish name, Sarah is a Jewish name, or I should say they're both Hebrew names. And again, as someone who's ethnically Jewish, that was very important to me. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding these dolls. I want to touch on that just for a second. I have Claudie, and I love Claudie, and I think she's gorgeous, and her stories are important, and I got her as soon as she released because I wanted to vote with my wallet. Again, tell AG, tell Mattel that we want more character dolls of color. We want more, you know, deep skin dolls. We want more diversity. The thing that made me sad was that when these 2 were released, I was so excited because they were the only Jewish dolls that had been released other than Rebecca. That was very important to me. I remember there was one, there was like a blog post that went up, And it was someone trying to guess what the twins were going to look like based on the fact that they're Jewish. And that just told me so much about how little non-Jewish people understand what it is to be Jewish. You can be ethnically Jewish, you can be culturally Jewish, you can be religiously Jewish. You can be all three of those things. You can be a combination. So there's no such thing as looking Jewish. There isn't. So I was very hurt by a lot of the rhetoric that was going around at the time surrounding the twins, just calling them basic white girls, because that removed the Jewishness. And I know the fact that they're Jewish isn't a huge part of their story, but for someone like myself, that was a huge part of why I identified with them and why their release was so important to me. There was a meme, basically a meme going around on AGIG around their release of, essentially, you guys didn't pay attention to Claudie and then you just released these basic white girls. And that was so hurtful, especially with the rise of, anti-Semitism in the current social political atmosphere. That was not cool. Sorry, I didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm telling the story of all of my dolls, so this is a really important one to me. So I think it's important that people really take a look at how they're engaging with dialogue, with rhetoric surrounding the appearance of a doll, because there's always going to be someone who feels represented by that doll. And you might not understand why they feel represented by that doll. But to call any doll who, again, is meant to represent a person basic is just hurtful. That tells little girls who look like this. Maybe it's a little girl who just identifies with this doll or with 27 or Truly Me 100. They identify with this doll because it looks like them, because they're a little blonde girl. That little blonde girl didn't choose to be a little blonde girl. That's just how she came out. That's how God made her. I think we need to chill on that. And just take a step back. They're just dolls. We don't want to be hurtful towards other people. We don't want to diminish other people's sense of, worth or identity. And, could AG have handled Claudie's release better? 100%. 100%. They needed to approach all of that differently. She deserved a catalog. She deserved much more, focus than they gave her. And that's a problem. AG tends to do these really fast releases where they don't give things time to shine. And that was a definite mistake with Claudie. That should have been handled with more sensitivity. We need to lead with kindness. We need to lead with understanding. And I understand why people were upset. But again, as someone who felt represented by the Jewish Christmas, Chrismukkah, all of that, so let's just do better, okay? All right, let's go to doll number 3. I should say doll number 3 of 2023. Okay, so this was a doll that at first I didn't get the hype, and then I saw a listing for her on eBay and I got it. I didn't get that doll because she cost way too much, but I got a TLC 21. So this is Wendy in my collection. My husband and I have a nickname for her. It's Full Belly Sweatpants. She's a character. She's kind of the grody girl, but we love her. So she has a whole bunch of highlighter stains, unfortunately, which highlighter stains are incredibly difficult to get out. Instead, I just dress her in long sleeves and long pants the way I like to be dressed. And yeah, unfortunately, her wig is is pretty dry. I'm gonna get a fabric steamer because fabric steamers can actually do a lot for doll hair. So I'm gonna get a fabric steamer and try that out on her and see if that helps. But yeah, this is Wendy, my 21. Her hair was so damaged when I got her that I didn't even realize that she actually had the pin curls. So they're under there. They're under there. But yeah, I think I got her for, yeah, about $27 on Mercari. I got her on May 5th. So the twins I got on their release day at the American Girl Place pop-up in Los Angeles so that would have been the 22nd of February. And this girl I got about 2.5 months later on May 5th. So this is my Wendy. The next doll on my list, I actually don't have the date written down for her, but I received her shortly after her release in, it's crazy to say, summer of 2023. AG went insane with the limited edition releases in 2023. We don't need to see that again. But I got Morgan, who is my FAO Schwarz limited edition doll. Like Penelope, she is one of the oldest dolls in the house. So Penelope is the eldest, Morgan is second in line. And she's also like a surrogate mom to the girls. Our nickname for her is Captain Underpants. So Captain Morgan Underpants. The reason is when I pulled her out of her shipping box, her skirt was flipped up like over her head basically. So just her underwear was showing, and she immediately got the nickname Captain Underpants. And then because we named her Morgan, Captain Morgan Underpants. So anyway, but I just think she's one of the prettiest dolls that AG's made in a long time. And yeah, I love her coloring. I love the long hair. I love the curls. Unfortunately, so I love dolls with curls. I also love dolls with long hair, but the longer the hair, the less inclined I am to, you know, carry them around, to sit with them, you know, have more of that cuddle time with them and whatnot. So yeah, because I don't want to brutally ruin her hair, we don't get as much one-on-one time. The reason I wanted to get the FAO Schwarz doll specifically is because, I mean, one, I've been a toy collector my whole life, so that seemed appropriate. Two, she's gorgeous. And then three, something you folks might not know about me is I am a huge fan of classic teddy bears, like classic. On the other side of my office, there is about a 2.5 foot tall teddy bear that my grandmother got me when I was 1 or 2 years old. And you wind him up and he plays the song, "Here Come the Teddy Bears." I have him, I have my teddy bear blanket that I've had, again, probably since I was about 3 years old, which is one of my favorite things that, you know, has ever existed. Lots of things like that exist in my life, just little nods to classic teddy bears, and I've just always loved them. So yeah, for that reason, because, you know, FAO Schwarz has their own classic teddies, I just loved the idea of having an AG doll specifically who represented that love that I have of very classic plush toys. So yeah, that's Morgan. All right, so the next doll on the list I got on September 27th of 2023. If you don't know, I'm a writer. I used to be a screenwriter for about 3 years in Los Angeles, and I basically got tired of the fact that when I wrote something that I loved deeply and, you know, was incredibly connected to my characters as a screenwriter, a lovely screenwriter, I didn't have the power to get that story out to the masses. I turned to novelization, and that's what I've been working on for a long time now. So anyway, one of the stories that I started developing about a year prior to getting this doll, the doll reminded me of one of the characters. She lit my imagination on fire. And that's one of my husband's favorite things about my doll collection, is that so often I work out my characters through my dolls, or it'll be a doll or a plushie or something like that that actually inspires an entire story or series or whatnot. With no further ado, this is Mallory. She is the, oh gosh, what was it called? The Silver Splendid. I don't remember the collector doll name, but this is Mallory in my collection. She's in Be Forever Rebecca's pajamas. And I left her little earrings in, and I love her. I'm not personally, we all have our preferences. I'm not personally a big fan of the Marie Grace face mold, but on her, it absolutely works. I know a lot of people were really into her because she reminded them of Game of Thrones. I watched one episode of Game of Thrones and was like, this is not for me. I love fantasy, don't get me wrong. But it was just really graphic in a way that I felt didn't actually serve the story. As a storyteller myself and someone who's worked in film, I'm incredibly particular about certain aspects of storytelling, and if something seems gratuitous for the sake of shock value rather than for adding layers to the world itself, I'm out. If you love Game of Thrones, go you, and I am happy for you. It just wasn't for me. She specifically represents a character in one of my series that I've been working on. Right now it's on the back burner. I have 2 other projects that essentially are ahead in line before that one. I hope to get back to it when I have the time and the opportunity and whatnot. So she actually just sits on my dresser in my bedroom so that I can, you know, see her when I'm going to bed and think character thoughts and whatnot. I just like to stare at her because she inspires me so much and so deeply embodies that character for me. So that being said, the character's name is not Mallory. As my stories start to, you know, get fleshed out and whatnot, I want to give a little bit of insight into them through my social media, through my art, but I don't want to give too much of it away. So I played around with the name, so she's Mallory. Anyway, I'm gonna go get the next doll. All right, so the next doll on my list is very, very special to me. She was essentially my Grail doll before I got her. She's incredibly special to me. Oh gosh, I'm getting chills talking about her. Sorry, I have very visceral reactions to things. I didn't think that I would get this doll anytime soon because she was just too expensive, and then I found her for a really good deal. I think she's maybe the only time I've spent more than the original catalog price. I spent, I think, $113 on her. She's just great. I couldn't believe it when I found her. So this is my Pleasant Company Samantha. She's a transitional doll. So like that 90-91 era, because she does have the lighter brown hair, not the dark brown, and the soft brown eyelashes and the soft blush. So yeah, she is just, I love her so much. I actually found these jammies when my husband and I went to a consignment store here in New England for my birthday, and they just happened to have a whole bunch of AG stuff. They had replica items to include this nightgown, but they also had brand new in box American Girl of Today items for $15 and $35. Insane. Absolutely insane. Every time we're in that area, I always have to go and check to see if they got more. The cardigans that I released in my shop last weekend, the Winky cardigans, those are actually named for her because my nickname for her is Winky, because oftentimes her one eye will get stuck open because it gets like stuck on her bangs, and yeah, I just gave her the nickname Winky, and a lot of times that's what I call her instead of Sam. I was very fortunate to be able to get quite a bit of her collection secondhand. I think the thing I was the most excited about was I got her play outfit the blue kind of tartan dress with the pinafore, which is my favorite Samantha outfit, for $25. And it has a tag that I don't even recognize. So it's her play outfit, and I don't remember the date off the top of my head. I think it might have been 1989, because I was trying to get things from around her vintage. But it's a made in Turkey for Pleasant Company tag. And I've never seen another tag made in Turkey. So if you know anything about that, please let me know. She and one of my other historicals are best friends in my doll universe. And if you've seen my my photos on AGIG or the Modern American Girl art that I released with my shop drop last week, then you know exactly who her bestie is already without me having to go any further. So anyway, this is my Winky. All right, the next doll in my collection I got on Christmas Day of 2023. So I had a bunch of berry points, and then there was a sale. So basically I got this girl for free. I love free. And that is my number 44, Hazel May. So she always reminds me of my friend, the one that I gave my Maritza to. This girl reminds me of her. So Hazel, that Christmas, so Christmas of 2023 was extremely hard for me. Our cat, whom I had had since he was 4 weeks old, I found him as a baby. He was abandoned in a parking lot. He was now 17 years old, and he suddenly got really sick. It was extremely hard. So the dolls that I received, because I got 2 dolls for Christmas that year from my family, the dolls that I received that year, I didn't get to bond with until much later. Because for me, if an object is in some way tied to an experience, it is imbued with that experience, and it will always remind me of that experience. So 1, that's why I love souvenirs, but 2, that means that if I have something special like a doll that I want to be able to connect with and have, you know, only positive associations with, I'm not gonna open them or interact with them until my head is in a better space. I got Hazel May as a Christmas gift from my husband. We ordered her together, and then, you know, he put her aside because I didn't want to just all of a sudden, and now I have another doll. I just got 2 collector dolls. Like I like space between my dolls. You know, our old place in California was imbued with all of those torturous memories of losing our boy, because again, I had him for 17 years. Losing him was the first time I have ever seen my husband cry. The only time he has ever cried is when we have lost an animal. So getting to, you know, our new house, I was able to make time and really bond with Hazel here, who is named for 2 people, well, a person and a character. I am a huge John Green and Hank Green fan. I love everything that they do. And so The Fault in Our Stars, Hazel is is the protagonist. And then also my Aunt Hazel, who I spent a lot of time with, along with my grandma growing up. So yeah, that's how she got her name. So anyway, Hazel May. All right, by the way, I'm sorry some of these stories are downers today. I'm like, oh, please don't be anti-Semitic. Oh, my cat died. But these are the stories that our dolls hold. So I was telling my friend Ashley the other day, ag.ashgirl1904, that it's very interesting how our dolls basically hold on to the complexities of our human existence and our human experiences and relationships. So, but I think it's a good thing to be able to, you know, put those memories, those ideas, those emotions into something that you can continue to carry with you in a physical way. So anyway, all that to be said, the next doll on my list is the first doll that my dad got for me. My dad was a single dad. He and my grams raised me together. So I always say that he's my best girlfriend. I've always been able to talk to him about absolutely anything, because guess what, if you're the single dad of a daughter, you're gonna have to be able to talk about anything. But I get my love of miniatures from him. He just absolutely loves everything that I do with my dolls, from the photos to building sets to making props to, you know, making doll clothes, everything. He's a huge fan, and yeah, he's just the best parent anyone could ever ask for. So this doll he got me, I'll show you who it is first. He got me Molly. He got me the re-released Molly, new from American Girl, for Christmas of 2023, so the same Christmas that I got Hazel. When I was little, she is the doll that I looked the most like out of the original Pleasant Company girls who were around when I was a little kid. But here's the thing, my dad's nickname for me, he has a ton of nicknames for me, but the one that he uses most often is Molly. So the reason for that is there is a sports commentator that my dad listens to. Yes, I was also brought up on ESPN. So this particular sports commentator has an adult daughter who he refers to as Molly. That's not actually her name, because he tries to maintain his children's anonymity, which I think is very important in public spaces. Her nickname is Molly, and she's autistic. And she was late diagnosed autistic, just like I was very late to find out that I'm autistic. But it explains my entire life. There was this one exchange that the commentator, the dad, related on his show, where it was like, Molly, why did you do X, Y, and Z? And her answer was just, because I'm autistic, Dad. For my dad's sake, a lot of times, like, you know, there will be a sensory thing that's really difficult for me, or a communication gap that is difficult for me, or whatever it might be. And my dad is the most understanding person, like, in the entire universe. And he's so supportive. And when we found out that I'm autistic, everything made sense. But we have developed a shorthand for when I just need a little extra support, and all it is because I'm autistic, Dad. So for that reason, and then also just a lot of the similarities between that girl and myself, my dad started calling me Molly, so I figured this would be someone that he would be interested in gifting to me, and oh my gosh, he absolutely was. So Molly entered my collection. Thankfully, I was also able to get a lot of her collection when it went on like some crazy clearance where a bunch of it was $10. I was able to get her birthday outfit and things like that. I got her Christmas outfit used on Mercari, I think for $20, maybe $25. But I do like to change all of my dolls for the season, so she needs to get changed into her school outfit pretty soon. So yeah, we're gonna do that, huh? Yeah, you stubborn. I like you. Okay, so that's my Molly.
Hey friends, so after 8 hours of editing, my software crashed and I've now had to split this into 2 separate videos. So thank you for watching part 2. Part 3 will be out next week. That will be the conclusion of all my dolls. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye.